The weight of August, the thermometer outside Marcus's kitchen window had stopped working 3 days ago. Its red mercury frozen at the top like a crimson scream. He didn't need it anymore. The heat had become a living thing, pressing against his skin with malevolent intent, seeping through every crack in his weathered farmhouse, until the very air seemed to pulse with fever. August in Louisiana had always been brutal, but this year felt different. This year felt hungry. Marcus wiped the sweat from his forehead with a trembling hand, the salt stinging his eyes as he stared at the empty water jugs lined up on his counter like tombstones. The well had run dry 2 days ago, and the nearest neighbor lived 15 miles through heat-cracked roads that shimmered like mirages. His truck sat useless in the driveway, its engine seized from the relentless temperature that had climbed past 115 degrees and refused to retreat. The radio crackled with static and fragments of emergency broadcasts. Hurricane Delilah was strengthening in the Gulf, her eye wall tightening like a noose around the coast. Category 4, possibly 5. The weatherman's voice carried an edge of barely controlled panic as he urged immediate evacuation of coastal parishes. But Marcus couldn't leave, not anymore. His legs had begun to betray him yesterday, cramping and seizing. When he tried to walk more than a few steps, the headaches came in waves now, pounding behind his eyes like hammers against an anvil. His skin had taken on a waxy pallor despite the heat, and when he touched his neck, his pulse felt rapid and thready beneath fingers that no longer seemed to belong to him. Heat stroke. The words drifted through his consciousness like smoke. He'd seen it before in cattle during the worst summers, the way they'd stand motionless in whatever shade they could find, their breathing shallow and desperate, their eyes glazed with a particular madness that comes when the body begins to cook from within. Outside, the world had taken on an apocalyptic quality. The grass had withered to brown stubble that crunched underfoot like broken bones. Trees stood leafless and skeletal against a sky the color of old brass, their branches reaching upward like the arms of the damned. Even the insects had fled or died, leaving behind a silence so complete it felt like the earth itself was holding its breath. The wind began to change as evening approached, shifting from the still, suffocating heat to something with teeth. It carried the smell of salt and ozone, the metallic temps of electricity building in the atmosphere. The barometric pressure dropped so suddenly that Marcus felt it in his bones, a deep ache that settled into his joints like arthritis made of lightning. Through his kitchen window, he watched the horizon darken with clouds that moved with unnatural speed. They rolled across the sky like smoke from some vast fire, their edges lit with an eerie green phosphorescence that made his skin crawl. The temperature began to drop, not enough to provide relief, but enough to signal that something far worse was coming. Marcus tried to stand, to make some final preparation for the storm, but his body refused to obey. The room spun around him like a carnival ride, and he collapsed back into his chair, his vision tunneling to a pinprick of light. His mouth felt stuffed with cotton, his tongue swollen and useless. When had he last urinated? When had he last felt truly conscious? The first raindrops struck the windows like bullets, each impact sharp and violent. But instead of the relief he'd prayed for, the rain brought only more terror. It fell in sheets, so thick they turned the world outside into an aquatic nightmare. And with it came the wind howling, shrieking thing that seemed to have crawled up from the depths of hell itself. The house began to shake. Pictures fell from walls, and the ancient timbers groaned like a ship in a storm. Through the chaos, Marcus could hear something else, the sound of his own breathing, rapid and shallow, the desperate gasps of a body pushed beyond its limits. As Hurricane Delilah's outer bands reached his isolated farmhouse, Marcus understood with crystalline clarity that he would not survive the night. Not the heat that had already begun to shut down his organs, not the storm that was tearing his world apart board by board. His lack of preparation, no emergency water, no evacuation plan, no understanding of his own vulnerability had sealed his fate as surely as if he de-signed his own death warrant. The last thing he saw before consciousness fled was the kitchen thermometer, finally working again, its mercury dropping rapidly as the hurricane's eye wall approached. But by then, it was far too late for Marcus to appreciate the irony of finally getting the relief he desperately needed. Outside, August continued its merciless reign, indifferent to human suffering, patient as death itself.